Welcome to the Voice for Dads podcast.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's episode of Voice for Dads. I'm joined here in the studio by Louise and Gemma. Hi guys, how are you?
Good morning.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. So first off, I want to introduce Gemma. So followers of our page and our movement will have seen Gemma's posts already. Gemma is a counselling therapist that got involved with Voice for Dads, and you've reached out and became a volunteer and you're helping behind the scenes. So you've sat behind the camera quite a few times, so it's nice to have you out in front of the camera.
Yep, thank you very much. It's great to be here, and I'm really looking forward to what we can do in the future.
Yep, definitely.
Hopefully make changes.
We're going to smash it. And we're also joined today by Michael, our producer. So thanks for Michael for producing today's podcast. And Louise is our main guest. So hi, Louise.
Good afternoon. Hello.
You are our first Gran we've had on. So welcome. I know you're a bit nervous.
I am a little nervous, but within a few minutes, I'm sure I'll find my flow.
You'll be fine. So I'll just, what I'll say for the viewers, people watching and listening to this, that you and your son reached out to me and Voice for Dads because of the situation that you guys are in. And I met with you last week, and we decided that this podcast today with yourself was something we wanted to move forward and do to help raise awareness and hopefully help the situation that you and your son are in. So that's why you've been invited on today. So thank you very much for coming, and feel free to just tell us, your side of the story and what brings you to being here today.
I miss my granddaughter, I'm afraid, as is probably a very common story for a lot of fathers out there, where the mother of their children decides for whatever reason, nope, no more contact, no more access, and severs not just the father's contact, there is also the father's family. It has a ripple effect, and it's devastating for all of us, and especially if luckily I was involved in my granddaughter's life, weekly life, whenever the situation presented itself. Obviously, it's awesome being a gran. To nothing.
Yeah.
I have elderly parents as well who hopefully will be around for a long time, but it's cutting time with essential supports for the kids. And
so they've got a great grandchild.
They've got a great grandchild.
Who they're obviously not seeing either.
Nope. And kids bring so much happiness, so much love, a lot of giggles as well. And being denied that completely is difficult. But also as a mother, it is, I don't even know the word to express how difficult it is to watch your own child being abused by the system, basically. I feel that certain institutions are not reflecting today's life and family circumstances. We even have a benefit system that goes against supporting dual parent families, because a single parent, usually the mother, gets benefits, but if it is a joint claim, then it is not the exact same amount for that adult and that adult. So when you are being told you're far more affluent as a single parent, then it's not conducive to a mother-father or mother-mother, father-father, two-parent family.
Yeah.
So the benefit system impacts. The laws do not support fathers. It is all for women, which back in the day, thank goodness it was put in place, because there was a lot of misogyny. However, my personal feelings is, in today's age, the protection that afforded women is now turned on its head and being weaponised by women to vilify fathers, criminalise fathers. Fathers are victims of this, and the system supports it,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And any legal process takes lifetimes to change. But this is why things like Voices for Dads is so important and is so essential, because as we mentioned earlier, not in the podcast, you're wearing a t-shirt today that says put the children first.
Yeah.
It is not the mother, it is not the father, it's about that child.
Yeah.
And even if the child cannot verbalise or articulate how they feel, the child's views must be taken into consideration. We're all really aware of maternal deprivation,
Mhm.
but paternal deprivation is an area that needs more awareness as well. The more people, me personally, I believe, the more people that is in a child's life, advocating, supporting, loving them, being able to bring different perspectives, different generational views, the better.
Of course.
They shouldn't be used to hurt the non-resident parent.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with everything that you've just said.
Thank you.
And it's heartbreaking. It's all too familiar, and you're absolutely spot on. And hearing it from someone like yourself, for us, just adds the credibility, that we need, and we know that what we're doing is right, and what we're doing needs to be done. And when you said about how the system's flipped to where we are now, it was put so well, and I
Thank
completely
you.
agree. So I do. And I'm really sorry that you're in the situation you're in. I hope that it doesn't last long, and
Me too.
I hope your granddaughter does get put first, because that's what it all comes down to. Everything that we do at Voice for Dads, everything we aim to do, every plan that we're coming up with, ultimately is all about protecting children and putting the child first. It's not even about the dads. It comes down to the child. That's number one, and the children that are suffering. So yeah, everything you say, you put it perfectly.
Thank you.
So you did.
I have had to contact a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
as a grandparent. Grandparents do have rights.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of grandparents out there who, in their personal circumstances, need to take over being the parent of that child,
Right.
but they face obstacles. Me personally, I just want to see my granddaughter,
Yeah.
least of all my son.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that through court, I will be able to have my own contact
Mm-hmm.
until such times as my son has gone through the court process, which will cost, well, do we dare to say how much men are paying
Yeah.
to finance a system that does not represent them?
Yeah, and it's set up to go against them.
It is set up to go against them, and sometimes not even worth the paper that a contact order is printed on,
Yeah,
because
that's true.
the women can still then just go, no, the child's not well today, the child doesn't want to go. Oh, we booked something in this day. Are you going to upset the child and say that the child can't go?
Yeah.
There are so many below the belt tactics implemented through vengeance and bitterness and spite. And in my opinion, parental alienation is not recognised in British courts, but it should be. It is a provable, empirical, is that the right word? Psychological impact.
It's real. It's
It's
there.
real.
It's out there. It's recognised by court under the law, but it's not implemented. As you say, it's not implemented.
It's not a chargeable offence.
And well, it is, but it takes so much. It takes so much to prove, and it goes under the radar. So it does. And I think by the time parents maybe get to the stage where they say, right, shall I prosecute or push to prosecute the other parent, the contacts maybe start to back up, and then they're terrified to do anything that would maybe jeopardise that.
Yes.
So they end up going, right, we'll forget the last
Mhm.
year, we'll forget the last 5 years. I have my child in my life for 4 hours a week or something ridiculous like that. And then we just won't do anything to rock the boat, which is just as sad.
Absolutely.
So it is.
And then when the child is returned,
Mm,
the child's upset. Obviously, they've not seen their dad.
mhm,
Then they just get a tiny wee bit to themselves, and then they're ripped away from them all over again,
mhm,
worrying most likely, when am I going to see my dad again? Will I see my dad again?
mhm.
And they can't take that to the mother because of the reaction
Yep.
they then face.
So then they're in their own home where they should feel safe and be
Happy.
open, happy, happy children, perfect childhood. And they can't. They end up being too aware that if they say something, how they feel, it'll upset the
Yes.
mum, and then this child ends up, having that weight on their shoulders
Mhm.
that's just completely unnecessary and should be criminal behaviour to do that to
It's
a child.
teaching the child duplicity, where they have to be a certain way in one environment,
Mm-hmm.
but then the other, totally different,
Yeah.
completely different. And
Yeah.
that is a conflict that affects a child's conscience,
Yep.
because they feel torn between two people they love and worship.
Yeah. And it has lasting damage, lifelong lasting
Yes,
damage.
there's developed short-term, long-term, developmental damage, social skills, behaviours, all attributed to any kind of childhood trauma. And it is traumatic for that child. It's traumatic enough going through a separation or a divorce. The build up to that point is probably not very pleasant. It's the breakdown of a relationship, and almost a relief sometimes when the two parties separate, because the animosity within the household is gone.
Yeah.
But then that child's grieving the loss of one of those parents. It's a process of grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to know, I still have that person in my life. I
Mhm.
still have that support. My parents were together. And I know personally, I would not have come through life without having that love and just knowing they're there for me.
Yeah.
Why take that from a child?
Blows my mind sometimes that there's people out there that think that that's acceptable.
They actually believe they have the right to do this. And until awareness, it's impossible to see from other people's perspectives if you are not aware of that perspective. So, Voice for Dads and other agencies similar to this, services, keep going, and any man out there fighting to find his child or to see the child, link in with every support group you can have. You need as many cheerleaders in your life
Mm-hmm.
to keep you going, because a lot of dads, the emotion, and men, unfortunately, are not encouraged to share emotions. They're not encouraged to demonstrate and show emotions unless it is of the typical strength, strong man. And they can't always deal with the pain that they are put through.
Yeah.
I'm quite sure you would be able to educate us on the mental health impacts and suicides,
Mm-hmm.
where men have just got to that point where I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Sorry, there was one thing that you touched upon when you were saying about the grieving process, and that is something that happens quite a lot with any of these kind of situations. It's based on so you've got your family unit, and then that breaks apart. So you're feeling grief and loss within that support system, and then it just goes on like a domino effect from there. For example, like you said about the child, And if the father then isn't allowed to see the child, then that's a loss of its own. And that's what it's all based around. So you're saying about mental health and things like that. But it's the understanding that what you're going through is a real emotional process. And it's coming to terms with that. It's realizing that, you know, you have valid feelings. What you're going through is a legitimate situation and it is a direct impact of what you're going through.
And it
Yeah.
also affects their relationships, or
Yeah.
can affect school, their schooling. If they've got all this going on in their head
Yeah.
and their wee hearts, how are they supposed to concentrate? They
Yeah,
can't take
exactly.
things in. The forming of their own personal relationships, whether it be friendships or relationships, can be impacted as well.
Yeah.
Our children that have experienced this are then more likely to have substance misuse issues. I feel it's a form of self-medicating because the thought process, the feelings, the understanding has never been, it's all been internalized by these children, so they've never grown to understand it. And the irony, the mum will usually say, your dad didn't want you. Your dad, oh, look, there's your dad. He's got a new family. He's got a new. And it's like, oh, how
Yeah.
can you
I don't know how
say
many
that?
times I've heard that as well. Yeah, that's common practice.
It is ridiculous. A very important thing that I have been taught in my life for any situation is think how the other person would feel. So these villainous men, if the shoe is in the other foot and the man, the father, just cut off contact for the mother,
Yeah.
look at the difference in how social work and the law would deal with that.
That'd be completely
Police,
different.
blue lights,
Yep.
arrests,
Yep.
criminal convictions. And all these men want to do is be there for their children.
Yeah.
It's abysmal.
Just going back to what you said on suicide, and I'll probably find myself saying this in every episode, but it's true that every day a man, a dad will take their life because of not seeing their children. So as we sit here today, that will happen. A report I seen not long ago, it was 21 a week in the UK, so it means 3 a day, you know, and just taking their life because they've not seen their kids. We know that's happening, so that is horrendous. Another thing I've said before, but when we say that it's avoidable because if every parent puts their children first, it would end. But they don't, right? So not every parent is like that. So then you need the law to step in. So we are relying on the law to come in, but the law is failing.
Absolutely.
So now, what really doesn't sit well with me is that a mum could do this to their child. And if you're just listening in audio, I'm just flicking my hand. So backhand, you know, like back in the day, you used to get a clip behind the ears. You do that to your child now, and you could be charged. Yeah, you could do all of this, you know, with lasting damage for the rest of the child's life.
Exactly.
And it's not illegal. It's not been prosecuted anywhere near as much as it should. That's a bit for me that needs to change.
I have been careful not to breach confidentiality, but I have other grans, mothers. We've all got stories. And this individual has been, the father and the mother have been supported through social work.
Right.
And within the social work reports, it states that there is a safety plan in place because of the mother's inability to control or stabilise her emotions and behaviours.
Right.
That is documented by a professional and also verbalised from a statement taken of the mother on the report. knowing that the father has been told the safety plan, leave, allowing de-escalation.
Right.
Social work have advised that as a father, as a mother, you know you leave your baby with an individual who is unstable,
Mm-hmm.
wrecking the room, trashing the place, self-harming, and all the rest of it by her own admission. He is the one being told to leave. When he tries to do this, she prevents him. She gets his phone. She has PIN, bank details, passwords, you name it.
Yeah.
This individual has also been attacked. The wounds that I have seen on this father are from clawing at his face. The verbal abuse is just as damaging, more so damaging, saying
So he's a victim of domestic abuse.
useless, yes,
Yeah.
all recorded within this social work
Right.
report. When and if he is able to leave and not been locked in a bedroom or his phone taken off of him,
Mm-hmm.
coercive controlling him, saying, well, I'll put this up on your social media platforms, I'll say this, I'll do this. He then leaves and he's leaving his child there in this environment.
So he's been advised to leave and not take his child.
Yes. So this individual is now on, not spot on with the terminology and the jargon, but basically supervised contact because they're concerned for the welfare of the child. After stating the mother has no control over her emotions,
So the dad is to be supervised.
but the dad has to be supervised. This individual also has previous for domestic assault, which went to court after she did something to the eye socket,
Right.
a fracture, I think it was. Within this report that I was allowed to read over, have recognised an escalation in the violence from physical to using something to hit the father with.
Right.
And I'll go back to the point again. It is the father who is being penalised when he's damned if he does and he is damned if he stays. He has to endure the violence, the abuse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he leaves, he's leaving his child in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
When he leaves, he is then attacked through social media. What are you supposed to? It's an exercise in futility involving social work in that regard, because if they are then enabling an abuser, giving someone a plan and then saying that individual doesn't engage in that plan when they do,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost, it's farcical. It's
almost unbelievable,
farce.
isn't it? Like, it's almost unbelievable. That situation would never arise the opposite way around.
Exactly. And that is the
Never.
important thing. It's not about, it's the child. The most important thing in all situations is the child.
Yeah.
I don't see any situation that social work in that case have put the child first.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't.
It does.
And if ever that was to escalate into something more serious,
Mm-hmm.
shame on you, social work,
Yeah.
because
absolutely.
you enabled this to happen.
That reminds me of a program that's out on Netflix just now. My Wife, My Abuser, the secret footage. So it is. Yeah, it's a program that so many people are watching, and it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah,
So it
I
is.
started watching it, and
Yeah.
it is
A hard
eye
watch.
open. It is very difficult to
Yeah,
watch,
yeah.
especially with the stigma as
Yep.
well that is attached to males experiencing domestic violence. The statistics probably aren't representing the true number of men that experience it.
Yeah.
But I say we, as a society, we need equality.
Yeah, I do.
We need violence is wrong regardless of gender,
Yeah.
regardless of age. It's wrong or right.
But what I've seen since started doing this, and it's the same pattern, the amount of dads who have been charged with one count of domestic abuse because of an alleged accusation by the mother, and then it's almost like that gets put in place, and then they're then to be supervised or held from their children because of one count of domestic abuse, that the police or the courts will just jump on and listen to the mum, but they won't listen to the dad. And in reality, there was no such domestic abuse.
Mhm.
You know, and the amount of dads I know that that's happened to, these are men who have never had any problems in their life, never get into fights, don't have any criminal record, then all of a sudden they've got one charge of domestic abuse because the mother has created this scenario to be the victim when, she's anything but. And then that then starts the ball rolling of preventing contact, slowing down contact, pushing the dad away. And it's all part of a plan. So it is, and that is what I've seen over and over again.
I agree.
So it's,
A lot of this type of mother, I think we discussed narcissists.
100%. Yeah.
And
Everyone. Yep.
Again, the courts are empowering
Yep.
the narcissist.
Yeah. I heard a story the other day actually from a friend of mine, and it was a child. So it was someone that they knew. A child had went into school and said that my mummy is always shouting at my daddy. And the child had picked up on this and been in this environment. So the mum was always shouting at the dad. And it came from a person that worked in the school. So it's just a young child in primary school. And the response from the school was, well, what is daddy doing to make mummy shout at him?
That's what you're up against.
Yeah.
It's abysmal from
Yeah.
my son.
Mm-hmm.
And I must be very careful as it is an ongoing court case at the moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, and not just her, but this type of woman makes up whatever she wants to.
Yep.
And it's a reputational damage to be in an attempt to alienate and isolate the man, who then finds it difficult to even come out their front door, worrying about what everybody else is believing because of this toxic woman. I know of women that have resorted to accusing the father of sexual abuse because instantly, boom, that gets the end result.
Yeah.
There
It's almost
should
like
be
the
a
nuclear button, isn't it?
there should be a
spoke about this before.
process of, again, through the courts. And I need to be very careful because the knock-on effect is, it's about equality. Let me think what I want to say before I use the wrong word.
It's about your child or grandchild being put first. Everything that you
and
are
these women
looking...
being challenged. The narcissist in them
I've been held to account then. Yeah.
assumes they are. I mean, some of them kids get Oscars for their performances.
Yeah.
They are very manipulative. They are very controlling, and they are very convincing. And they know the second that they say things like sexual abuse, physical abuse, there's a lot of abuse nowadays, not just physical abuse, that have been recognised, from financial abuse, emotional, the whole plethora, coercive. And when these narcissists tell a story, when they are challenged and go, they can't cope. It's, oh no, you that isn't true. That's not my lie. And some of them, I actually think they believe their own lie. And this
Well,
is
when they've done
something
it for
we
that
have
long,
to
isn't it?
challenge.
They
Yes,
get into a hole, and
it works.
I think they do believe after a while that what they're saying is true. And yeah, I'd agree with that.
The only advice from personal experience through my ex-partner when he went through similar accusations was, okay, if this physical abuse was so grievous, why didn't you ever once present at hospital? Never once. Why only now, when you have moved on with someone else and that individual is having a family?
Yeah,
Funny how that's when these things always
always
go.
seems to be the case. Yeah, it does. It really
Yeah.
does.
It's like when they can't control their
The
partner anymore,
control.
they control all those roundabout.
And they
Yeah.
do not want
It's
their
textbook,
ex.
isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is. If I was to tell my story to you, you instantly think, yeah, I know of such and such. This
Yeah.
person, that person that has also experienced this.
Mhm.
Scientifically, if you repeat the same thing over and over again
Mhm.
and get the same end result, then that should be proof.
Mhm.
Why is it not?
Yeah. And your view is really interesting, and I'm so glad to have you on because you're not a dad, because you are a grandmother, as well as a mum, but you're a grandmother who's suffering right now,
Absolutely.
So
And all we want is just normality returns.
yeah,
And as well as a mother, if someone else was wanting to take my kid to let me have a bit of free time to have a bath, go out for a night out, why not
why
take
not?
it?
Yeah, true. I got a couple of messages this week through the page. Been speaking to quite a few people, and there was some comments made back and forth about one of the people we had on a podcast, and I found it really interesting. So I did the comments that came our way because it almost, they thought they were doing the right thing and getting it off their chest, and they thought they were coming at it from the right angle, but all they did was just confirm that what we're doing needs to be done and is the right thing to do, because in my opinion there is no situation where a dad shouldn't have their child or children in their life unless the child's in danger,
Yes,
and just because you've had an argument or you've had a barney or you've had a big fallout or whatever background noise there is, nonsense that's going on in the adult's life, no matter how bad the dad might be, no matter how bad the mum might be, it's all irrelevant. Unless, is that child in danger with one of the parents? No? Cool. The answer is the child needs to be in both their lives.
absolutely.
And it shouldn't be anything other than that.
I totally agree.
So, you had some bullet points on your phone. Do you want to just give it a quick check? So I don't want you missing out on anything. And while you're doing that, I've also got up the mygov.scotland website. So I did. So I wanted to look up basically the law and where grandparents stand. And I just want to read out a paragraph that's on here. So this is on the MyGov website, and it says contact with your grandchildren if their parents divorce or separate. And it says you don't have automatic right to see your grandchildren if their parents split up, but you do have options. You may be able to get a court order to get contact with your grandchild if a parent stops you seeing them. It's best to try and reach an agreement with the parents first. And that's it.
Absolutely.
But how vague is that though? What's that telling us? So sort out amongst yourself, pretty much. You're
And
dealing
where
with
does that get us?
exactly. You're dealing with a parent, say a mum in your situation that is hell bent on holding, your granddaughter from you.
So they advise try and sort it out between
Between
yourselves.
us, yeah.
Which
You can apply for
then-
a court order, but
Well, it then goes and it's almost like a game of tennis where, okay, I try and reach out to the mother. I get no response. I get no reply. Now, if I were to then go to the door, that is interpreted as threatening and intimidating behaviour. Least of all, a man then presenting at possibly his old home, it's him that's arrested. So there has to be actually wanted to go in for temporary custody
Right.
until such times as this court process has finalised.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I was advised, no, that is just not something you would ever get, but you can apply to the court for contact. I'm still in the process of it. I'll let you
Mhm.
know how I got on, fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah.
But there's also a part of me saying, well, why then? I feel a wee bit guilty. Imagine I am successful in getting contact and my son doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to,
Just be happy with that. You'd have your grandchild, but should be saying, "Where's my daddy?" Who you can't see
yes,
him just now
yeah,
for no reason as well. And when
exactly.
I met with your son, there's no court order in place. There's nothing in place to stop him seeing his daughter. He has no one on this planet has got more rights over his daughter than he does. Only her mother who has equal.
Absolutely.
Yet he is now sitting here not seeing his child.
And in thousands of pounds worth of debt with increasing legal fees.
Yeah, it's hard to get the words out sometimes.
Oh, I know lots of words, but they're probably not appropriate for your podcast. But it's damned if you do and it's damned if you don't. When you go through the correct procedures, whether it be governmental advice, legal advice, everything is always turned so that it is against, and it makes it that wee bit more difficult for men. It's wrong. The reason I wanted temporary custody is to allow the process of court and then go back to normality, right? Dad's days, mum's days.
Yeah.
If only we could live in a system that does put the child's best interest first.
If only we could.
And yes, I heard a term of the golden womb syndrome, and that's where mothers assume because they carry the child, they give birth to the child,
I haven't heard of that.
The golden womb.
Right, okay.
And they just believe that they are this child's everything. But the dad, if it wasn't for the dad, then the child would not be there.
Yeah.
Things that fathers bring to the table. I'm a single parent, and I know my ex, we do not go on, we do not like each other, but my daughter loves her dad.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, stopping her from seeing her dad, that would upset her.
Yeah.
When I first approached my lawyer about during our separation,
Right.
the first thing that I was told to do was deny him any contact. And I refused. It took me 4 years to go back to my lawyer to say, but why is that the go-to?
That's so interesting. So that's what they said to you straight
The
away.
first thing, just don't let him see her. That, so it is quite understandable.
And then you didn't obviously take the lawyer's advice because you put your child first.
Not at that time, yeah. For 4 years, we kind of just got on with it. But unfortunately, our dad appeared at the door first thing in the morning. He's a nightmare with organisation. Was adamant that it was his morning to take our daughter, and overpowered me putting her into the car. And at that point, I had to say, look, we need something in black and white so that you know what you're doing and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the only way to get the end result of the court order was to say, okay, I submit here. If that's the only way to do it, then that's what we'll do. I sent them photographs of...
And then did the court step in though and say, right, so here's your set days?
I don't know if it sped up the process or anything, but he was forced to get himself a lawyer and to partake in legal proceedings,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm quite sure he would now say is the best the best result.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel personally I was more open to contact.
Yeah.
As simple as that. I want my daughter to have her father in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not just me, my child does. And
Yeah.
until the day now, our child decides a preference, and that could backfire on me as much as it could backfire on
Yeah.
him. I do see in the future, I'm sick of you, Mum, I'm away at my dad's. It happens.
It does happen. Yeah.
But isn't it a lot better knowing that that's where she will be?
Mm-hmm.
She is going
And
to be
she's old
safe.
enough to decide that without being coerced and controlled.
Yes.
Getting told this is what you want.
And with a bit of luck, our old dad will just say, well, why are you coming? If you're grounded at your mum, she'll be grounded here today.
Aye, work together.
A partnership.
Yeah.
Where, I can't remember the terminology for it. It was something parenting, co-parenting or something.
Well, is that? Yeah, that is co-parenting.
It
Yeah.
benefits her.
Yep. Just
She
put the child
knows
first.
I'm not getting away with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if she knows or he knows he's going to get away with misbehaving, then they will obviously exploit that.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yep. Completely agree.
But the first go-to with law, just stop him from seeing her.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Shocking.
It
Absolutely
is.
shocking.
But we rely on these lawyers
Yeah.
to hash it out in court. And I am also aware they are bound by the limitations of current legislation. Lawyers cannot go against the law.
Mm-hmm.
They're representing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a lot of laws that need readdressed and need to be more reflective of today's current, is it social demographics?
Yeah, just today's world in general.
Today's world in general.
Yeah.
Definitely.
100%. Couldn't put it better myself. So, is there anything else you want to touch on while you're here?
Let me see. I just read something before I came on, and I've learnt a new phrase: unadulterated arrogance autopsy of the narcissistic parental alienator. That's something maybe for you, Gemma.
Sounds interesting. You said it
That's
to me.
something I've not heard of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I like that. I'm going to be looking more into that one myself. One thing that we have found is that in the interim period, waiting on court dates,
Right.
there is a lack of contact centres and supervised visitation centres
Mm-hmm.
where I appreciate there's stigma attached to these places, and why should I need to be supervised as a grandparent or a father?
Yeah.
My opinion on these is work with these people, because my character testimony does not bear much weight when it's my own child I'm discussing. If a professional in a professional capacity of social work say, they then should be able to see, this individual has turned up, this father has demonstrated, they will have a wee checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that, if there's any Dragon's Den people out there, this is so needed,
Yeah.
where parents as mothers can drop a child off in the safety of that environment. They leave, and then the father can come in. It would really be something especially for the interim period
Mm-hmm.
of waiting to get to court.
Mm-hmm. Well, contact centres do exist, and there is ones out there. There is a waiting list. I can tell you that. I can also tell you that when they are used, they aren't always successful. There's a lot of times where they're completely unnecessary and shouldn't be used. You know,
Mhm.
you're saying to a parent that's been a parent for years, you know, now you need to be supervised, and it might be with some teenager who's just come out of college and they're writing a report and it's then going to go to the
Yeah.
court. Nonsense, utter nonsense. But on the flip side, there's plenty of times where the supervised contact will be needed. You know, so if a child, you know, is in danger in any way or needs to be supervised, so there is a need for them, 100%. But there's also there's a lot of, say, abuse of them, you know, where it's
Yes.
they get shouted on, we need a contact centre, we need supervised contact, and it's just not needed.
Aye. Should be
Agree.
used, sorry, should be used more as like mediation or a neutral ground in comparison to a tool or a weapon.
Yeah, and it's just another part of the system that does get weaponised.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, we have approached the place of education to see if they would, because we're desperate.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to any of my children, I, I don't care. I will ask, I will beg.
Mm-hmm.
And I have approached services, place of education to say, is there anything you guys could do to facilitate this?
Mm-hmm.
What I have now become aware of is the father's rights to be involved in the education of their child, and apparently has the right to remove that child from their place of education. I'm saying this, it's a nursery level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
think removing primary and secondary from learning would be, but at this stage, it would be ideal if we could. But nurseries are businesses these days, and
I
they
just
have
want
a
to
duty
clarify
of
what it is you're
care.
saying. No, so you're saying that, clarify what it is you're saying there about the nursery and removing from education.
Basically, I contacted the nursery and had said, look, is there anything at all that you could do to facilitate contact?
Yeah, right.
Could it be an option if social work could support it?
Right.
Because we have had social workers saying there is absolutely no reason why no contact should be what you guys are going through
Yeah,
just now.
right,
You
okay.
should, there is no concerns for the child's welfare.
Yeah.
As you said, it is two adults that are not agreeing,
Mm-hmm.
but caring for my granddaughter has never been a question in
Right,
relation
okay.
to
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
my granddaughter. So they did offer a room and it had a camera, and I says that's even better because it protects us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite sure there's a lot of fathers out there who fear when they return the child, they are then accused of not feeding them, hitting them, not caring for them. So it was something that I reached out to
Mm-hmm.
on a whim in sheer desperation. And unfortunately, it has now put the nursery in conflict, which
Right.
a nursery should never have to be in
Yeah.
conflict
Yeah.
between parents. They were very good to say that they could possibly offer this.
Mm-hmm.
And we have also approached social work.
Mm-hmm.
But as we said prior to the podcast, I went in week after week after week after week,
Yeah.
begging until they had taken my name, I think, for the millionth time. And I said, I have come in here every week and I have not had an email, I have not had a phone call, I have not had anything.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, a social worker then spoke with myself and she said, this is so common.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fathers who come to us saying, please, can you help? And yet again, the law doesn't support, the funding doesn't support.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily something that social work should be criticised for, but it's the fact that there's a lack of social workers. So there is as
Everywhere
well.
is understaffed,
Yeah.
underpaid.
Yeah. And then going back to the nursery, so I understand what you're saying now, but then the nursery's view will be, well, if every parent of all the children
Exactly.
said this to us, next time we turn into a contact centre. So I understand the nursery are in a situation, and then they would more than likely just say, no, we can't accommodate this. But then in the situation that you're in, there's nothing stopping your son going in and picking his daughter up and taking her away because he has parental rights. He could just go in and say, you're not at nursery today, you're spending the day with daddy, and then you'll go back to mummy tonight.
And
That
there is
could
no
happen.
contact order. It could,
Yeah,
but we know what would happen, what the end result of that would be.
yeah,
Police.
yeah. Which is just highlighting everything that we're talking about, everything that we're trying to change. So yeah, it's such a shame, but let's hope we can make change.
That is the goal. It is not to go against women. It is to create an environment where the child's needs are addressed and put first above the emotions experienced by adults that a child should be protected from.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming in. Honestly, I think that was a really good conversation. I think everything you said resonates, and a lot of people will enjoy hearing, your side.
I hope so.
They will.
Hope so.
They will. So if there's anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
I think I got
mostly
everything out.
Yeah, extremely well. Most of the points
Thank
that
you,
you
Gemma.
covered, even when you're expanding, and I'm like, yes, definitely, you've covered it really well.
And it takes a lot for people to come in to hear for a start, to come in, do a podcast, let alone a grandparent. So I salute you for that.
Thank you.
So we'll wrap it up on that, guys. I will do my poem that I forgot about in the last episode. We're all that deep in conversation. So first off, I'll thank Michael, our producer, for being here today. And I'll thank Louise and Gemma for coming on. So on that note, I'll finish with our poem. You're not just my grandchild, you're a source of boundless energy, a beacon of hope for the future and a testament to the resilience of love across generations. Your dreams hold the promise of tomorrow, and your presence is a gift that keeps on giving.
That's lovely. That's so sweet. I'm getting shivers.
Guys, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We'll speak soon.